So if you consider yourself an empath or highly sensitive person, eliminating these 5 things or these 5 habits of thought can help a lot in dealing with being a highly sensitive person. One is attaching storylines to feelings. And what I mean by that is often we will feel something from someone else and we immediately attach a storyline to it, which may or may not be true about the other person. But just because we feel energy from another does not mean we need to figure out what they need or put a storyline to it. What other people are going through is really none of our business, unless they ask us for support or want to bring us into their situation. When you feel something, simply give yourself what you need to transmute the energy and let it go. As soon as we assume a storyline about another person, we've disempowered them. Only by embodying the healing and holding a space for people do we be exactly where they are, do we give healing. Why would we want anyone to feel broken? We're not broken, and emotions don't make us broken. Being sensitive does not make us broken. Feelings are normal, of course, all of them. They don't have to be the force that informs our beliefs or actions, and they are not problems to be fixed. They are our natural expression. So, not attaching assumed or imagined storylines to the energy we feel from others can release us from a lot of mental drainage and energy drainage. It's a complete waste of mental energy and depletes us of vital life force. The second thing that I've realized is really important as an empath, or just as a human being, to be careful of is judgment. There's an enormous difference between discernment and judgment. Judging something as right or wrong or good and bad, when we do that, we're simultaneously judging ourselves. And it often robs us of the ability to see the nuances and gray areas in life and to really learn vital lessons. When we discern, we can say, oh, okay, I don't want to go to this party because I'm feeling inside that I'm not in a good place and it might drain me. That's discernment. And judgment would be, I'm not going to that party because it's full of energetic vampires and I don't want to be vamped. First and foremost, you're judging people you don't even actually really know, and you're also saying you're a victim, which is one of the biggest downfalls and pitfalls for empaths, is to believe you're a victim. Just because you're a sensitive person does not mean you're a victim. And when I say sensitive, I don't mean highly offended. That's a big misconception when we say I'm sensitive or I'm a highly sensitive person. Highly sensitive people may easily get offended, but when I'm talking about being sensitive, I'm talking about being sensitive to energy, tuning in and feeling nuances and subtleties of vibration and being able to distinguish between them. Whereas often a lot of people don't tune in, and what they notice is just sort of what's right in front of your face. So other people's choices are theirs, but how we respond, react, or judge them is about us. Judgment is not really our place, and we have no way of knowing another person's true heart. So as an empath, practice discerning, tuning into energy, being more sensitive. I think opening yourself up and being more sensitive is one of the best things you can do, because if you can be energetically intelligent and sensitive, you can avoid a lot of maybe negativity in life. The third habit is, this is very human of everyone, but establishing a hierarchy. So whether it's in secular or religious or spiritual environments, the idea that we are above or below another person is damaging for anyone, especially an empath. Once we've set up a hierarchy, we automatically place ourselves as either the oppressor, the victim, or the savior. We will never evolve past things like war and larger world concerns if we can't settle this basic interpersonal conflict amongst ourselves and our friends, spouses, families, etc. Obviously, we're all unique and different aspects of the same ultimate universe or source. Practice seeing yourself as the owner and ruler of your own life choices. You are the one who must ultimately take up dominion over your life, and we must quit waiting for the outside world to change in order for us to believe we are free, independent, sovereign, and powerful creators, neither above or below anyone. We may not have equal shares of power, but we all ultimately have authority of what we believe about ourselves and how we will respond or act in the world. Changing our beliefs regarding this is an important responsibility we have to the ones who are praying for a world of equality. This step is key. The hierarchy thing, I think, is one of the biggest downfalls of humanity, believing that we can somehow be above or below another person. And empaths do this especially. There's this innate belief often that if you're sensitive, or if you're sensitive to energy, and if you identify yourself as an empath and therefore often simultaneously as a victim, then obviously others are more powerful than you and are over you. So you know that can't be true if you believe in a world of equality and if you're praying for a world of equality. So it's important to just dig up that belief, recognize that it's there, and see that it's out of alignment with your true self in order to let it go. The fourth habit, and this is of course the most ubiquitous one for empaths, is codependency. If you're an empath, you've probably heard about the peril of codependency ad nauseum, but because I'm highlighting the pitfalls, I would be amiss not to mention this perhaps most common and dangerous potentials for empaths. It's crucial for an empath to learn to self-soothe, and love yourself with respect and boundaries so that we can attract people into our lives that love us the way we deserve. Beginnings strongly influence outcomes, so it's important to get a handle on our empathy and learn how to be powerful, sensitive creators in relationships so our life force is not squeezed out by the overwhelming emotional needs of others and the addiction of being needed by them. Codependency is an addiction for most empaths because often we get our sense of worth from being needed by another person. But again, it's another one of those things where if you believe if you're operating under that belief system, you are believing in a world of hierarchy and you're disempowering the other person. If you believe that person needs you or they can't survive, you are disempowering them, and vice versa. And the fifth one, which I love to talk about because this is very common, and it's not necessarily negative unless it gets out of balance, and that is the healer complex. So we all grow through this phase, and it's a beautiful and important part of our journey. We practice healing others so we can learn to self-heal. The problem is, many empaths get stuck in this phase, the ego becoming so attached and identified with being needed as a healer that we self-sabotage our own relationships and ultimately ourselves. Needing to be needed is the ultimate block to receiving and can wreak havoc on our creativity, our sexuality, and our weight. This happens because our entire identity is wrapped up in helping others, and we lose our connection to our own creative life force, which always moves, evolves, and changes. The biggest problem with this pitfall is the ego's denial of the problem. One who has a healer complex prefers to be a victim to the overwhelming needs of others because the ego believes itself to be a martyr for the greater good. In reality, we typically overlook our own shadows, desires, and disappointments in favor of being possessed by others. This is a big one for empaths, is needing to be needed so much, and because we draw people in, because we're magnetic, we often let others possess us, and we forget even who we are in that. Because of not knowing how to receive in a balanced way, we inadvertently drink the energy of people around us or our clients if we actually have a business set up. And we become addicted to needing to fix everyone around us. It's quite an unhealthy place for us to remain for too long. And if you're there, don't beat yourself up. Simply recognize your need to learn how to give and receive in a balanced way and begin interacting accordingly. This is so crucial. That's something I've noticed often in myself. A lot of times when I feel like I have healed that completely, I'll notice certain tendencies going back in that direction. And how I always can identify it is I will not have a sense of self-satisfaction. And I'll be almost looking, it's something that's unconscious, but looking around for someone to need me to help them. And I don't think helping people is wrong or bad. And a lot of time reflection amongst friends or with clients or whatever is incredibly helpful. But needing to be needed is the issue here, or needing to be a healer to someone, or needing people to set you up on a pedestal as if you have something they don't have. Very unhealthy dynamics, and is one of the biggest pitfalls for, I think, anyone who considers themselves a healer or in sort of that realm, whether you're an empath or not. So what would happen to you if you let go of your healer, helper, empath identity? This is a challenge that I have for a lot of empaths, and I do it in my empath group a lot. I'm challenging myself even to not even call myself an empath, Because as soon as we've labeled something, we've also limited it. A label's just to help us understand it, but it's not all that we are. If the thought of not identifying yourself as a healer, a helper, or an empath, or a highly sensitive person, if that thought sends you into a panic, it's a good sign that your relationships are off balance and some new alignment and better gifts are waiting for you on the other side of the upgrade. You don't want to be tired all the time, and often setting yourself up as the empath or the healer is an exhausting way to live. It's also too much to live up to. Do you really want to feel like nobody truly knows you because you have to be the one that has it all together? You have to be the one who is the one who's there for everyone? Maybe it's time to really open up and ask yourself, are your relationships, do they reflect your most inner truth? Is your ego an extension of your strongest inner truth? Because there's nothing wrong with the ego. And I think integrating our shadow and integrating those parts of us that we often find unacceptable is a huge part of getting over the healer complex, because we recognize that we're human. And by human, a lot of times when even people say we're human, there's this negative association with it, like, oh, well, that means we're somehow flawed. It's this inherent belief that being human means being somehow less than or lower than any other species in the world. So check your beliefs. What would it look like to allow yourself to just be human, to get over it's funny because I had one person comment on one of my videos saying, well, if you're an empath, because I was talking about empaths, if you're an empath, then you would never be negative. You wouldn't have an ego. And that's such bullshit. It's such bullshit. And that whole idea is so ubiquitous in the spiritual movement that to say something like I'm sensitive or I can read energy, which everybody can if they want to tune into it. We all have the ability to do that. That somehow you're also saying I'm set apart from everyone else. I'm somehow special. And that's the complex I'm talking about. It's dangerous and it's not healthy, and I don't think it reflects any sort of true, loving, unconditional way to be in this world. So think about that. It's just some ideas that I have that has helped me in dealing with being a sensitive person, but may or may not be relevant to you. So take what you want, leave the rest, and I hope you have a good week. Ciao.